It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my cloth, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 pounds, and I still kept it up.
Welcome. I'm back. It's your boy D Ross, and I'm hosting TTP Conversations. Always trying to keep it authentic, as we all know. Today is a good day. You know, every day that we're able to be blessed to wake up is a good day. But today is another special day for me, man. I got one of my brothers here on the show. So I'm going to do him a proper. I'm just going to try to introduce him to the best that I can, to the best of my ability. But the bio don't speak enough about this man and how much I feel about him. So bear with me as I try to introduce my brother and I get through it, because this dude here, like I said, he means a lot to me. We've been through some things, man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And I'm grateful to have him here today. We're going to talk. The mics are going to get hot. You know, we just going to let it go. But Mr. Lawrence S. Witherspoon, let me tell you a little bit about him, man. I'm going to give you a rundown of who he is first, and then I'll tell you a little bit about more of what he means to me. Lawrence is a seasoned professional in child policy advocates. He currently serves as a senior managing partner at the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption, where he fosters and collaborates to advance organizational missions. Previously, he served as a director of the Center of Family Voice in Groundwork, Ohio, leading efforts to evaluate the voices of families with young children in policy and advocacy. I'm telling you, man, when you talk about advocacy, this dude is it. And again, I can't speak about how grateful I am to have him on the show today. Throughout his work, Lawrence has championed impact policy changes across Ohio to support early childhood development and family well-being at the local, region, and at the state levels. With over 14 years, man, 14 years of human services. Now, has anybody ever worked a year when it comes to any aspect of social services, you know that it takes a very special person to do that.
Absolutely.
I mean, the work is hard. It's very, very thankless. And there's only small fractions of times where you are reminded of why you do the work that you do. Lawrence has supported Central Ohio families as parenting educational consultant, trainer, and support services, supervisor at the Buckeye Ranch, where we met and got down. We'll tell you a little bit more about that. Throughout home-based interventions, he's also empowered families and young children with developmental disabilities, focusing on serving coordination. You know what I mean? That's huge. Child development strengthening, parent and child relationships. Lawrence has also played a pivotal role in diversity and equity and inclusion at the Buckeye Ranch, chairing as the DEI Council for 3 years. He's established initiatives like the Employee Resource Group and Color Coded to provide safe places for Black and Brown employees to address DEI topics and foster solutions to oriented dialogues. I know I said a lot of things right there, but we're going to talk about what a lot of that means here in a second and break it down for you. Lawrence also holds accredited as qualifications and mental health specialist, emotional intelligence. I got to get this right, because we're going to talk a lot about this part. This is one of my favorite right here, the emotional intelligence. Okay, so let me go back and make sure you know who he is. He holds accreditations, okay, as a qualified mental health specialist and emotional intelligence implement strategist. Yes. Emotional intelligence is real. It's real. I mean, it's so real. When he first introduced that to me, you know, I was flirting around with a little bit on my own anyway, but to have somebody that we can dialogue back and forth with about it, it helped me to gain even more perspective about it. We're going to also dive a little bit into that. Like I said, I'm not done. Bear with me. This dude is very incredible that I have before you today. So I'm not telling you that just because he's my brother. I'm telling you because of the work that he's done and the service that he's administered to just Columbus and many others. So let me continue just giving you a little bit about who he is. For local nations and ministries, he's counseled backgrounds including guiding children's families through crisis and interventions, facilitating therapeutic behavioral groups in youth and treatment programs. That's huge. You talk about bridging the gap between behaviors and trying to implement therapeutic solutions. That's awesome. As an ordained minister, yes, for over 18 years, Lawrence has founded I means from the ground up, everybody. That means answering the call and doing the work when you can't even see the end of the road. Right. You know what I mean? So as an ordained minister for over 18 years, has founded the church Greater Love Outreach Ministries in 2018 to focus on community outreach. And where? Let me hit you with this one. The Linden area, okay? Yeah. Where, for those of you that don't know what I do, I'm also a juvenile enrichment specialist in 80% of my clientele is from the Linden area. So for those of you that don't understand and don't believe that you can make it from wherever you're from, okay, I'm sitting across from someone who came from the Linden area and has done tremendous things and is working to inform those from the Linden area about their values and what they're capable of achieving if they just lock in and focus and understand the resources that are around them. Okay. As a leader in Columbus, the class of 2021 graduate, he's collaborated with the United Way to establish financial literacy programs for local schools. Now, everybody loves money, right, but right. Not everybody understands what to do with it. Right. Outside of spending it, people right. don't have a problem spending money, man. But to organize, opportunities for people to understand financial literacy is huge. It wasn't until I don't want to speak too much about my age, but it was let's just say a handful of years ago where I was first introduced that to a group of individuals who worked in the financial literacy area and started educating me on the difference between GoFundMe's and actually being able to invest in the future properly by paying yourself first. Right. So that's also huge. I'm still not done, just in case you thought I was getting to the end of the amazing things that this man has brought to the table. Raised in the North Linden area, okay, Lawrence attends, Como Elementary, Crestview Middle School, Brookhaven High School before entering his degree in criminal arts and graphic design from, help me say that, Antonelli. See, I need to get a little bit more of these credentials together so I can pronounce things appropriately. But Antonelli College and the University of Cincinnati, as well as a degree in behavioral science at Ashford University. Hold on a second. Hold on. School. Yeah, I'm not, hey, you thought I was done. Hold on. It's my dude, man. I'm trying to tell you, I'm excited to have him here. So let me continue to let y'all know just who I'm talking to. So everything that we speak about, you understand the credentials and the qualifications coming from this man and what he has to share with us today. Where am I at? Okay, let me backtrack a little bit. Okay, from the University of Cincinnati, as well as the degree in behavioral science from Ashford University. He is certified by the National Center for Growth and Development in Parenting Education, and as a father practitioner by Fathers and Family Coalitions of America. Lawrence collaborates with national leaders, not just local. I'm gonna say that again. He collaborates with national leaders, okay? That's all over. And an advocacy through the Nationwide Children's Hospital Alliance and Rockwood Leadership Institute. Okay, still not done. Here comes the most important part of who he is. He's a husband and a father to my sister, my beautiful mother, Miss Barbara, who they met 19 years ago and have been, hold on.
At 19.
At 19. Let me clarify that. Yeah. That's when didn't nobody know nothing at 19. Right. We was making a whole lot of mistakes at 19. Yeah. You know what I mean? But to have met his wife at 19 and to be married for over 24 years, okay? And is a proud father of 4 wonderful children that I could attest to. An amazing family, amazing man, and I'm honored to have my brother here with you. Lawrence. I know I didn't do good enough job bringing you out, bro, but I just had to let people know that I don't fool with just anybody. You know, there's a saying said, show me people that you associate yourself with and I'll show you what your future is. So I am honored to be associated with such a man because I am hopeful that if I continue to surround myself with men like him and who we share similar goals and aspirations, that my future will be bright as well. So give it up for my brother. You know what I mean? I'm a do my due diligence, but I want to turn it over and let him just speak and do a little quick intro about himself as well. Lawrence, talk to the people.
First of all, I'm very grateful to be here in this space and share the space.
a lot of individuals get an opportunity to really dig into the dialogue that we have often, outside of camera, outside of public entities. People get an opportunity to kind of hear the natural organic dialogue that we have every day. And I think I'm just as grateful for you as you are for me, just because we've spent a significant amount of time of our lives interacting and sharpening each other's iron swords specifically. And so I'm just grateful to be here. I know my bio is like extremely long.
No, bro, it's perfect.
People ask me for my bio, and I'm like, I need to cut some of this out. But the reason why it's important to have those things in our bio is because people need to know who they're interacting with, who's in their presence. You know what I mean? And that's extremely valuable to know who you're interacting with. And then I'm blessed to have those things in my bio. I'm blessed and have the favor of God to be able to have gotten the education that I have, to grow up where I grew up, watch a significant amount of things happen during that time, and be able to get out of that environment and go into another environment to learn and get access to resources and information and knowledge and bring it back to the community.
That's
and
the key.
Serve it. You know what I mean?
Bringing it back to bringing it back. A lot of people, when they do go, I'm speaking in general. Don't quote me on no facts here. I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to keep it authentic according to me. So a lot of people, when they do find some form of success, outside of cats who are going on to the leagues and doing all stuff like that, where they become trillionaires, billionaires, however you see it. But it's equally important for those who just graduate or just are able to go start a career or start a business, from some of these inner city areas, to be able to just come back and say, look, I'm a product of this environment. You know what I mean? If I can do it, you can do it. Let me put you onto some of the resources. Let me put you onto the grind that I went through in order to help it. Let's talk a little bit about the grind, man. Let's talk a little bit about the processes. I said, you heard the man. He said he had to cut some of the doggone information out. Unfortunately, otherwise we'd have spent probably the whole time talking about just how incredible he is. And I won't mind doing that. You got to get a man his flowers. For someone of his age, and I'm not gonna tell nobody how old you are unless you want me to, and you could tell him. I'm not gonna tell him.
Very close to 50.
That part. So, but to have put it down and have ran the course, and have went through a series of processes, and we're not even gonna talk about the last part of his journey. Well, yes, we are gonna talk about. We're gonna say that for later. I'm gonna put him on the spot later.
And you know what, D? Our bios. Tell people about our process.
Yes.
What you were reading about my experience is truly my process.
Yeah.
And so you just don't arrive. You actually go through a significant amount of steps and experiences throughout your life in different environments with different people in different communities, and it makes up your bio. And so when you're talking about trusting the process,
yes, sir.
Everything
CTP.
that you read that happened in my bio, I had to trust that what I was doing would lead me to a place like where I am today. You know what I mean? And so when we were talking about trusting the process,
yes, sir.
You can't just arrive. You have to actually go through a sequence of events to get to an arrival. So
your process, bro, because not all the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm again, this is all according to me. I didn't always trust the processes. One led me to another, which led me to another. Sometimes not trusting a particular process took me in a roundabout way and brought me right back to the word.
Yeah, I think
talk about that, man.
I think 80% of the population don't trust the process, and it may be even higher than that. I'm just saying 80%.
Yeah.
If you talk to anyone, you always over process, and I think I shared with you a couple of weeks ago, like over processing is why we have anxiety.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times we want to get to a place, but we don't want to go through the process to get to that place. And so it's real difficult to really get to that place, because it's just like, man, okay, here are the steps, here are the, and sometimes people can give you the blueprint to get there.
But they always do.
Yeah. And it's like, but You have the blueprint on how to get there,
Yeah.
but it's just like, are you willing to go through the process?
Yes.
Are you willing to follow and navigate through that blueprint to get to the end goal? And I'm saying everyone has an end goal.
Yeah.
But how hungry are you to get to the end goal? You know what I mean? And so you got to be starving to get to that. And you know what? Everyone has a goal. Everyone has a place that they want to get to in life. And what one of the things I was just having a conversation with my sons about.
Okay.
My four boys. I was saying, when you get to a certain place, don't get comfortable and just say, okay, I've arrived. When you get to that place, enjoy that place, because it was a process that led you to that place. But don't stop there. Say, okay, here, I've accomplished this. So what else do I want to accomplish? Because what happens is some people say, oh, I've accomplished this, I'm good. And then they coast the rest of their lives out and not really be fulfilled. They're content, but they're not fulfilled.
Right.
And so I'm trying to teach my boys now, listen, you want to be fulfilled. You don't want to just be content.
Right.
And so that means that once you get to a place of contentment, you have to reevaluate everything that you've done, where you are now, and if that's where you want to stay the rest of your life, or if you want to go further than that. And so those are conversations I'm having with my children now.
They got to keep it moving.
Yeah, they got to. You can't stop, man.
Yeah.
You can't stop. And successful people, the people that we look at that are successful, they grind.
Right. So
grind.
you hear a lot of people talk about grinding, though.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You see all the videos. You hear everybody talking about, I'm out here grinding. I'm grinding, bro. You know, let's again. We talking about keeping it authentic. TTP conversations. It's gotten watered down, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Let's keep it a buck. The phrase itself, grind, bro. I'm out here grinding. You ask anybody what's going on? Oh man, you know I'm out here just grinding. But you said it, to stay hungry, to not be content, to have goals, to have an end goal.
Yeah.
But what is it about people, you know, that causes them to stand still? What is that? What is it about that thing? And you can speak professionally and personally, that causes people to stand still until someone asks them how they doing or what's going on. And then all of a sudden they want to perk up and talk about their grind, but ain't really doing the things that are required day in and day out in order to grind. Doctor, and I'm gonna turn it over to you, but Dr. Eric Thomas said, you know what I mean, everybody want to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. He said, if you call me during a certain time when I'm grinding, okay, you're going to hear a message that says, and this was one of my favorite things that Dr. Thomas talked about. He said, the message is going to read, you have reached Eric Thomas. Unfortunately, this is the wrong time. Call me next year. You know what I mean? Or I'll get back to you next year. Something like that. I know I butchered it. I wasn't word for word. But he said, you've reached the right person just at the wrong time. I'm going to holler back at you next year. Wow. You know what I mean? He said that on his message because he had a goal. Right. He was hungry. He had a why. He talked about his wife. He talked about being homeless. He talked about all those things. And he said, I'm going to put my phone down. I'm going to disappear. And I'm going to give my attention, my time, and my focus to my grind and my why. What is it about people today, especially, that causes us so easily to speak about a grind, but are caused to stand still at time and really not understand what it takes to push through?
That's interesting. You say that. Two things: is your grind productive or unproductive? Because you can be grinding and it's unproductive.
Okay.
And you can grind and be productive, because here's the reality. There's a lot of individuals that are grinding, but it's unproductive. Like you're grinding, but you're not going anywhere. Versus grinding and you're getting, you know, if your grind is real because movement happens.
Okay.
And you know, I talk about movement is life.
Yes.
Movement is life. So if you're not moving, you're dead.
Right.
And so everyone wants to use that word or that phrase because they're working hard. But don't see the residual benefits of working hard. Okay. So that means that there's something missing. There's something missing. You're working hard, you're grinding, but you're not moving. And so you have to reevaluate your grind. And what happens is people grind all their lives until they're broken down, instead of grinding and saying, okay, where am I in this grind? And if you recognize that you're not moving as quickly as you need to be moving, you need to reevaluate your grind.
And that's the process.
That's the process.
And then it becomes a challenge because if you're not moving, because life don't care about your grind.
Nope.
Life is going to throw obstacles, adversity, which we've both learned through sports and growing up and so on and so forth, that is going to try to derail you. And that's just naturally. We want to get into the spiritual aspect of it. You know what I mean? It's by design for us to be destroyed. Yes. So if you have a vision, if you have a grind, if you've understood what your purpose is or your niche or something that you just are really passionate about in the world today, and you want to call that to pursuit of your grind, there is a process. But like Brother Lawrence said, you have to understand if your grind, okay, is purposeful. If it's moving, I mean, it may be purposeful, but if it's efficient, you know what I mean. If it's
how productive
if it's productive,
how
I've spent the vast majority of my life then, according to that definition, grinding without productivity. Yeah. But in that, I learned because I stayed hungry. For me, I was able to stay hungry because I wanted more. And then my brother hit me with it a couple years ago. Well, you got to just stay consistent. And I was like, what are you talking about, bro? Yeah. I'm consistent. I'm always getting up. I'm beating my alarm clock. I'm doing this. Nah, bro, I ain't talking about that. He talking about staying locked in on something, okay, evaluating it, not always changing it or hopping from here to there, but there's something that's in all of us.
Yeah.
There's a goal. There's aspirations. There's more. As men, I've talked to a lot of brothers that just sit there and want more, feel like there's more, don't always know how to go about getting more, and find themselves caught up in the rat race. Go to school, get a job, make some money, have some kids, have a family, you know what I mean, and just work. Then when I can't work, complain.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And then wind up, like you said, with no movement, they wind up passing or dying without anything, like my brother said, leaving behind. I've always wanted to leave a legacy, bruh. You know what I mean? That's why it's on the back of the wall now, you know, legacy. It's by being able to leave someone, something, or this place better off or with something when my time is done. Yeah. It's that moment when you're challenged. It's that moment where you're saying, we have to reevaluate. But there's still more to it than that, bro. Because when people get to that point where they're just grinding, and that grind becomes habitual but not productive.
Yeah, you're in a hamster wheel.
Yes.
You're in a hamster wheel.
And then something may derail you or change your course or change your path. But how is it that we are, what's the tool for us to be able to come back, okay, stay the course, push through something that's getting in the way of us continuously to grind with productivity? Because there's a lot of us that are out here working hard, bro, and ain't getting nowhere really. You know what I mean? Speak on that time in between, that process in between that you've experienced where you might have felt stagnant. And what was it that you did, and how was your process in that moment that helped propel you past that moment of standing still or possibly changing course?
Yeah, one of the things that I definitely want to insert into this conversation, of course, you knew I would.
Yep. Come on with it.
Are you grinding with or without God? Is the question. And do you believe in what it is that you're doing? Because one of the things I found out, man, historically, is I've had conversations with individuals who will convince you about what it is that they're doing or what they're designed to do, but don't believe it themselves. Like, for real. I've seen people say, man, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get here, but they don't believe it themselves internally. But they want us to believe it. Like you can't, don't try to convince me to believe what it is that you want to do. You got to convince you.
Yeah.
I'm just a spectator watching what you do. Mm-hmm. And I can hear what you're saying all day. And like we had many conversations about being consistent. Yes. Like the issue we run into is that as we're on the grind, we have people who are around us or who are attached to us, connected to us, who are disruptors. Ooh. And so they're designed, and I know this sounds crazy, but they're designed to disrupt a process. And what it is we have to recognize when we have disruptors of a process around us and disconnect from the disruptors. But the issue is we are so connected to people that are disruptors because we think they're fans. We think they're a part of our support system. And so, and this is what I mean by disruptors. This is what I mean by disruptors. They see you on the grind. They see that you are on a path of productivity.
Yeah.
But what happens is they will call you with their issues, with their problems, and you take on their responsibilities and you stop moving. So instead of you grinding to get to where you need to go, you're trying to help them. You pause what you're doing and you're helping them get to where they need to go. And essentially they have disrupted your process. So, and if you are a person who wants to help people by nature, which we are, and historically that our careers tell us that, and our families and our communities tell us that. So what tends to happen to us is there's a disruption in the ebb and flow of where we're trying to get to, because we're trying to help other people get to where they're trying to go.
Yes.
And the problem with that is a lot of us feel like we're designed to help everyone that comes into our space.
Yeah.
And the reality is we are assigned to specific people, but we want to assign ourselves to everybody that comes. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I'm guilty. And when we were, the question that you were posing, like, when have you become stagnant?
Yeah.
I became stagnant when I was trying to help everybody else. And where I am now, I could have got here 8 years sooner if I wasn't trying to help everybody else get to where they. And here's the deal: people who are grinders always trying to help somebody else get their grind on.
Right.
But that person's got to be hungry just like you are.
Right. Otherwise,
they got to want to eat like you do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, because here's the deal: if they're not willing to grind like you are, so they want you to grind for them.
Oh,
and so that's what keeps us stagnant.
That's more weight.
We trying to pull people with us.
Yeah.
We're trying to pull people with us, and what should happen is we go through our process, we get to where we need to go, and then when we get to where we need to go, we help pull people up. But what we're trying to do is drag people up with us, and it takes us longer to get there.
More energy, more mental health strain.
Yeah.
And then is it safe to say that even in that moment, we start to, once we get somebody moving in that right direction, we feel that sense of gratification. And then is it true to say it's now pivotal, but you spent a significant amount of time trying to help others and doing things for other people, that it's hard for you to reshift your focus back into what it is that you were supposed to do in a different season, a different time in life, different challenges may cause you to pause. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Because if I'm speaking my truth, man, I done started a million different things already. You know what I mean? And I haven't finished any of them
because every time we start something, there's something that disrupts that process.
Yeah.
And that's where consistency comes in. That's where the conversation of consistency. What happens is, and it could be a relationship that that disrupts the process. Mm-hmm. It could be ourselves, because we're good for blaming other people.
Right.
We're really good for doing that. But sometimes what it is we can solve a problem and keep it moving.
Yeah.
But what happens is we stop and then try to solve the problem and then try to pick back up where we left off. And now 2, 3, 4 years have passed by. And so those things, those things that God has given us that we have written down, those processes that we had aligned, they're in a book somewhere, or they're on a laptop somewhere.
Yes.
And years have gone by, because what happened is you started that process, it got disrupted, and then you moved on to something else and started that process that got disrupted. Then you moved on to something else, and so we've collected a whole bunch of different things.
Yeah.
And if we had stayed the course on the very first thing, we would have got to that to that part
sooner.
A lot sooner, man. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
And so the question is, how do you keep things from disrupting the process? That's the question, right?
So can I blow your mind one more time?
Yeah. Go.
So, but who's to say that that's also not part of the process? You know what I mean? By design, to go through these 10-year experiences of pause or change or hamster wheeling, if you will, being stagnant, in order to get to a point where another one of my dearest friends used to tell me, movement happens for you when you get tired enough. When are you going to get tired enough of doing the same things. And you know, when people start telling you about the phrase, when you do the same thing over and over again with no results, it's a form of insanity. Well, when you get tired enough, you have to do some things that socially may be hard. You know what I mean? Meaning cutting some people loose, cutting some things loose, changing your circle, not being so giving of yourself in order to be consistent, to get on a level of grinding that is going to be productive. How do people overcome that process? What is it about that process of cutting people off, finding a way to not allow things to disrupt your movement? I mean, you mentioned it could be relationships, it could be family, it could be children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Jobs. I mean, there's many forms of disruptors, but in the form of productivity grinding, of how, talk to me about some of your processes of having to cut people off or cut things off in order to create movement that brought you to your productivity, that allowed me to go ahead and give just a fraction of your bio and share with people who you are. Talk to me about that process of kind of protecting yourself against the disruptors.
Well, I can tell you, this is what I found out. When you're talking about going through all these different processes, one of the things that I found to be true is, and this is very unfortunate, as we get older, and get into the knowledge of knowing, we find out that there's some things we could have done different, but we didn't have access to the information to do anything different. So we went through a series of things that we've collected that became our process to get to where we are. But what I found out is a lot of people, when we were growing up, were telling us who we were. Instead of us really knowing who we were, or evaluating, or trying to search for who we are. So here's what happens. When you don't have an identity, you go through multiple steps to get to the end result. When you know who you are and you have searched that, and that's really where your relationship with God and your relationship with yourself come in. Wow. When we were growing up, man, we had people that we looked up to for various reasons. Right. And they all went through a series of mistakes that they try to teach us not to make. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so it's easier to tell someone, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But what's complicated about that is we've watched them do all the things they told us not to do. Yeah. So it is embedded in our subconscious being, to where even though somebody tells us don't go through this process, because we've watched people go through that process, it's embedded in us. It's almost second nature to go through the same process. Wow. And so we continue to perpetuate, don't do what I did, do what I say. Yeah. But we learn by seeing what people do, not what people say. And so we walk around trying to figure out who we are or what we were designed to do. This is what happened to me. I didn't realize what I was designed to do. Yeah. So I'll tell my age. I'm 46. Ooh. 46. I didn't learn what I was designed, or discover what I was designed to do until I turned 38. Okay. So all those things in my bio were things that I was doing because I thought that would lead me to what I was designed to do. Okay. Now, I've collected a lot of experiences. Yeah. I've collected a lot of education, a lot of resources, and I have a lot of connections in terms of people that I know. Okay. So that was great in the process. But if I had already known what I was designed to do when I started the process, I could have met and learned all that 10 years sooner. Wow. Do you see what I'm saying? I do. So what happens is we go through a discovery of who we are, and then eventually we become who we are, versus really evaluating what it is you really are designed to do. And this comes with your relationship with God. If you're seeking ye first the kingdom of God. Yeah, Matthew, come on. Yeah, if you're doing that, God is simply, he is essentially telling you what it is you're designed to do.
Okay.
But here's the part that we have a problem with. When God tells us what we're designed to do, that's not what we really want to do.
Yeah.
Because of our
Because of our perception of what it is?
Yes.
Or how we're
Yeah.
or what it looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
okay.
we're like, I know you designed me to do this, but I don't really want to do that because I don't, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And God is simply saying to us, if you do what I designed you to do, all the things that you want,
I'm gonna give
you'll
to you.
get.
Yeah.
But instead, we're trying to get all the things we want
Without doing what we're supposed to do.
So
Process is backwards.
So I would say 60% of my accomplishments I could have got sooner if I had heard the voice of God, listen and implement it.
Okay.
So it took me longer to get everything I got because of disobedience.
Wow.
Well, let me change it. Because here's a word we don't use that often.
Okay.
Not just disobedience, but incomplete obedience. So what that means is, when we're talking about incomplete obedience, means we did some of the things that God told us to do, but not all of them.
Not all.
So that's incomplete.
Okay.
Which means you're inconsistent,
Okay.
which disrupts the process.
So we was the disruptor in that moment, or whatever psychological entity or social entity.
Yep.
got
We're
in
the
way of it.
disruptor,
Our
or we
own knowledge or understanding
we're
of
the
what it
disruptor,
looked like.
or we let people disrupt. Because we're uncomfortable really going through the process. So we'll use people who disrupt the process as an excuse for not completing the process.
So with sports, man, we went through adversity in sports. Sports was hard. You know what I mean? We had old school type coaches that pressed upon us. If you know, let me tell you, man, we had to put the work in. Different today. Today's a whole different day, but I want to make a comparison. So being able to have a goal of being a starter in whatever sport, or whatever the case may be, we were willing at times, if you really were hungry enough, to go through all the physical and mental abuse, which is what they classify it today. But to us, it was mental and physical toughness, or preparing, or building character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In order for us to realize how bad we really wanted something. So if we were willing to go through that pain for a Friday night or a Saturday night opportunity to play, or Tuesday if it was basketball or track or baseball, whatever the case may be, whatever your sport was, we were willing to go to the physical, emotional, and mental strain of growth. But when we remove ourselves, some of us, or just people in general, from that same arena, but then you put us in the arena of life, what is it about not being willing to go through the same pain, the same mental and physical building, in order to meet today's goals of being financially independent, being a better husband, being a better father, being a better son or daughter? What is it about us as beings that causes us to only be able to apply some of these factors that we're built with? Because I know a lot of us, if you put us in tough situations, a lot of us will come out of it on the other side. But we don't put ourselves in those tough situations. We will wait on something socially to happen, something with our job, something with our relationships, or something with our health, to push us past the point of saying, no, I got to cut some things off. I got to cut some things loose. What is that about us? Is that comfort? Is that being comfortable? Talk to us about that process of being willing to go through the pain and the character building when it comes to something that we want. But when it comes to things that we need to do or have to do, we want to come up with some type of excuse or delay that process instead of jumping right in and getting after it. What is that about us as beings?
We want now we're in a phase in life where we want instant gratification.
Instant gratification, yeah.
Because that is needed for people to feel self-worth. That's needed to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now,
value and self-worth. Okay.
Yeah. So now society tells us that if you don't have this many followers, this many likes, this many loves, you're not accepted.
Okay.
And so that's where we have the identity crisis.
Okay.
We, instead of us identifying who we are, we let other people create and identify who we are. And so when back in the day we used to grind. So back in the day we were put in a position, and what I mean back in the day, 70s, 80s, and 90s, early 90s, we were put in a position where nobody was around you to give you access to.
Talk to him.
We had the grind to get access to. Like we had to push the door down.
Yeah.
We had to kick the door down. And so now, like, and here's what happens to at least our generation.
Yeah.
We have fatigue.
Okay.
So we've been grinding and trying to push doors down for so long because they weren't giving it to us. Now we walk around saying, well, we did this for so long, we deserve people to give us this. And so our
now
grind,
we're entitled.
So now the grind changes. Now instead of us, we've gotten older now.
Yeah.
So we're like,
well,
now y'all need to.
I'm not old, man. I'm seasoned.
I said older.
Okay.
I said older. Seasoned.
I don't like using that old word.
Salt and pepper.
That part.
Salt and pepper. But we when we were so here's the deal. The reason why our grind has changed is because we have gotten to a point where we feel like we've arrived.
Okay.
So we were grinding so hard, and then we got to a certain point.
Yeah.
Remember, we were content.
Content.
So we got content, and now we're just like, we worked so hard to get here. The rest of our grind should be given to us.
Okay.
And so what happens is we pass that on to our kids. So we worked real hard to live in the suburbs.
Yeah, the burbs.
The burbs. We live in the burbs, drive the nice cars, go to good schools, live in nice houses, wear good clothes all the time. Right. And so we were just like, we don't want our kids to go through what we went through. So in turn, we're like, you know what? We grind so hard to get here. I don't want my kid to grind. What happened is our grind created character. So we don't want our kids to grind now. So now we question their character. We're like, well, why don't you do this? And why can't you do this?
They seem
why
to
can't
appear
you
lazy.
be independent? Yeah, they look lazy.
Yeah.
We did that.
Yeah.
We did that. So our kids, here's the crazy part. We know how hard the process is,
right,
and trusting the process is.
Yes.
So we're like, if we can cut the process in half for our kids, they don't have to feel what we felt. And so what happens is we decrease their resilience by doing that. Yep. We're resilient because we went through so much to get to where we are. Yep. Our kids lack resilience because we didn't want them to go through what we went through. Yep. And so in turn, they have a different experience. Yep. And so now we're like, well, why y'all act like this? What's going on with y'all? Why y'all so lazy? To the point of
frustration.
To the point where our kids don't want to cut grass.
Yeah.
And when they play football, they feel like they earned a spot because they showed up to practice. And they showed up and watched film versus grinding. Yes. It's too hot. Man, I've heard kids say it's too hot out here. I'm like, when we were growing up, man, we didn't even have air conditioning units at our high school.
No. And better crack a window or something and get a fan.
If the air is turned low or too high, they're like, what's going on with the air? And I'm like, do y'all understand the access y'all have? And that makes it challenging. And then there's another group of kids who grew up like we did, who still don't have that accessibility to those things. And that is the difference between what we see in some of those kids. Some of those kids are grinding to get out of a situation, to get into a better ones. And then you got another group of kids that aren't grinding because they don't feel like they have to get out of a situation.
And that goes according to adults too. So that's what it is. They've either gotten comfortable or to a point of being comfortable. And then when they are challenged, or we are challenged, or our generation is challenged, because they've grinded so long, now they're sitting back and waiting on something to be given to them, or someone to make the grind easier because they are watching or witnessing everyone else maybe move at a pace that they feel they should be moving at, but they don't see what they're going through at night or during the day. Okay, I'm with you. Yeah. You
like we still talk about reparations.
That man, come on, man.
You know, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Which essentially is like, you owe me, so give it to me.
Yeah, and we're
waiting for reparations as opposed to taking.
Yes.
We could wait for that.
Yeah.
Or we could just take
But
it.
we are at a point collectively when we're talking about reparations that we are as a whole, as a culture.
Yeah.
I'm not speaking about the vast majority or that are still fighting and pushing.
Right.
I'm talking about us as a people. We still sleep, man, when it comes to certain things. We'll talk about it, you know what I mean? But we ain't really collectively doing what's required to take what is rightfully ours. You know what I mean? And but when you think about it, it was someone promised us something. They didn't deliver, but it still doesn't mean we can't have ours.
Right.
In whatever form or fashion that is. Imagine a day when we were able to come together and say, look, as a culture, as a people, as the intelligence, as the athleticism, as the charisma, the personality, the trendsetters, whatever you want to call it, because you can look around culturally and see us everywhere. You know what I mean? Penetrating everything.
Yeah.
A hand in everything.
Mm-hmm.
At every level, in every aspect. And still haven't quite figured out a way collectively in all areas throughout the nation to find a way to come together and stand in a form of unity that causes I might get in trouble for saying
So we
this,
have to
but
become disruptors, essentially.
disruptors, yes, of social norms.
Yep.
Disruptors of social norms.
Like, what are we doing while we're waiting on reparations? What are we actually doing?
Waiting on reparations.
Like, okay, so we're waiting on reparations, but what are you doing? And so I'm saying for some people, they're like, I'm not gonna grind. I'm gonna wait for reparations. We may not ever get reparations.
ever.
So you just gonna wait and you gonna die off waiting for reparations? We've been talking about reparations and so I don't.
Guess who sees that?
You know what's crazy, man? I think today is the first time I mentioned reparations out loud.
Yeah, because I mean we talked about. I think we talked about it once in one of our power calls. We had.
But it's like I'm not waiting for somebody to give me something.
Yeah.
I'm taking what I feel belongs to me.
Yep.
How do you do that? You use this.
Yeah.
We have access to so much information. We are running low on excuses on why we're not successful.
People
we're running
have to
very
try
low.
to not be
Yeah,
successful.
we're
anymore.
running real low on that, man. We're running real low. I ain't even talking that kind of language. I'm like, I should have been successful 8 years ago.
Yep.
And because I knew the information, I knew how to apply it.
Yeah.
I was just scared.
Socially stuck.
Fear.
Fear.
Some
Yeah,
of it is
yeah,
fear because it's
yeah.
like, I know the information, I know how to get there, but I'm scared to take the step. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Fear keeps us.
Yep. Causes you to stand
Fear
still,
is the
right?
biggest thing that disrupts our process.
Feel of failure?
Yep.
Okay.
Fear. It's we're putting ourselves out there, man.
Yeah.
And if it don't work out, we're concerned about criticism, ridicule.
Especially today.
We're scared of that.
Yeah. Okay.
We're scared for people to call us out like you didn't reach your goal, you didn't make it, you didn't fit.
Meanwhile, they sitting over there judging.
Yeah, they're watching.
Moving.
They're not moving, but they're waiting to see if you'll move.
And that's tough, bro.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word successful. You said I could have been successful years ago. What in your mind defines success?
Knowing who you are,
Yes.
and what you're designed to do. Because what happens is, all those things that you read in my bio,
Yeah.
any normal person looks at that as, any common person, let me say common, looks at that as successful.
Okay.
It looks at education,
Right.
and career and access.
Okay.
But to me, success is when you are living in your purpose. That's successful, because if you're living in your purpose, that was the goal. That's what we were designed to do.
Yes.
And I'm saying I didn't realize that till 38. So for 38 of my years,
Right.
I wasn't living in my purpose. And so so I measure success.
Yes.
This is how I measure success. How much do I know? How much of what I know I can apply? That's how I determine what success is. So so here's the reality. I think about 80% of what I know, 85% of what I know, I can apply it. And what that tells me is I can apply all of what I know.
Right.
Which tells me I still have room to grow.
Yes.
Because when you decide you can't get any better than you are, you stop learning.
You stop learning. You're not evolving no more.
Yeah. And so for me, success isn't the house I live in, because I live in a nice house.
Yeah.
It's not the cars.
It is a nice house too. I'm not even up front.
It's the cars are nice.
Yeah.
Family's doing well.
Absolutely.
That looks like a measure of success. But that is not ultimate success. Ultimate success is what you said.
Yeah.
Your legacy. So what's successful is, did I build a blueprint for my 4 boys
Yes.
to thrive in the future?
That is success.
Because when I die, I mentioned this to you before. What do you leave when you leave?
When you leave. Bro.
So success is not measured by what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
My success is measured on, when I leave, what happens after I leave.
That part. I'm with you.
Who will remember me?
Yes.
Who will remember what I did? Who will see my kids and say, your dad was a
Yes.
great man.
Yes.
He did this for people.
Yes. Yeah. Hey, I'm telling you.
And then my kids reciprocate
Yes, that's the goal.
what they saw
Yes.
me do. Not
Saw,
what they
heard.
heard me do.
Yeah.
What they saw me do.
Yes.
That's success. And
That
guess
is.
what? I may die not seeing all the things that my kids will do,
Yeah.
but the next generations will. That's
part.
success.
That's success. That's real. And I wholeheartedly believe in that, bro, because everything about me and everything that I've been trying to do since my first daughter, my first child, Kasia was blessed into my life. That's all it became about for me.
Yeah.
Was, what can I do? How much of a way can I pave? How much of the groundwork can I do to make things fundamentally okay for my kids? I had to press education.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it by just talking about it.
Right.
I had to go get the degrees.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I had to push past it. So when I talked about the expectation and I was saying, you can't bring no C's into this house. You know what I mean? They looked at me like I was crazy. And I'm like, nah, I'm not crazy. I just understand the value of not the grade, but the process in order for them to work, to learn something, because that's why I hang my degrees on the wall.
Yeah.
I want them to
Same
see.
thing.
I gave my first degree to my mom, and I spoke about that in our segment. I gave my diploma to my mom. I gave my first degree to my mom. I hang one of them right next to my baptism. You know what I mean? Because those are the 2 things that are important to me that I've been able to do and that my children were able to see.
Yeah. Hey, you did better than me. I took pictures of mine and gave them to my mom. I kept mine.
Hey, but
no, I feel you.
But
I feel you.
But her process,
But she helped you get. Yep.
because she didn't graduate.
Yeah.
She made a choice to go step into parenthood and deal with me at 17, bro.
Yeah. And get y'all.
And get me off, and the foundation that she put into me, that is what I saw, not what I heard. Because my mom said a lot of things, and I still recite a lot of the stuff that she say as a parent to my knuckleheads.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was her grind and what I saw, because we talk about the grind and how we work and we do things, but my grind pales in comparison to my mom's. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm bruh.
I know.
Look,
yeah.
but we talked about, she was hopping on a bicycle, bruh. A bicycle. She put
Real grind.
Come on, man. She put me on across the bar, and matter of fact, when I got a bike, she got me a bike. Had my brother Derek across the top bar, Dom in the doggone back, because back then the bikes had the little car seats on them, and that's how she got it done, bruh. Didn't have no car. You know what I mean? Had to get to a job. That's a real grind right there. To get on a bike, look, my kids don't even want to go walk down the street to the doggone bus stop.
We complain about driving somewhere.
That part.
We complain about driving
Think about
a car
that.
somewhere.
Complain about driving. Man, we got to go all the way across town.
Yeah.
And we have means to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We ain't pressed about the gas that's in the car.
Yeah.
We ain't pressed about the car that's going to get us over there. If something go wrong with the car, we ain't pressed about how to get it fixed because we understand how to grind and make it happen.
But we complain about?
What's that?
The time it takes to do
The
it.
time it takes to do it. But
That's the process.
Yes.
Process. That's the key
Okay.
to trusting the process.
Yes.
Time. It takes time to get there. And what we don't want to do
Man, you
is
just
take
brought
time,
that thing
bro.
home, bro.
We didn't want to take time. We don't want to take time to go through a process.
You just brought it home.
We're like, we need to hurry up.
Yo, let
We don't
me
like to
make
take
sure.
time.
I want to make sure people did not miss that. Because what just happened here, we had a little breakthrough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Listen to this. I'm a restate it. We talk about processes. Whatever your process is, whatever your goal is, whatever you're working towards, trying to accomplish, trying to achieve. Okay? We talked about those disruptors. Okay? But then he hit me upside my head with it. I was like, yo, time.
Bro.
Time is it's probably one of the biggest disruptors.
It's the biggest, because what happens is
The instant gratification.
when we are disrupted, it takes away our time.
It takes away our
Listen,
time.
time you can't get back.
No.
Time you can't rewind.
It's undefeated too.
If you let people take your time, you gonna wake up one day and realize how much time was wasted. And it's the one thing we can't get back, bro.
Yeah.
It's the one thing we can't get back. And so that's why I said, is it a productive or unproductive grind? Because productivity deals with time.
And efficiency.
And consistency deals with time.
Man.
That means if you're consistent, that means you're doing it time and time and time and time and time. That means there's a
regimented.
consistency to the time that you spend going through a process.
Yeah.
And I wanted to double back on success. What do we consider?
Yeah, the
So
measure.
everybody has their views and perspective on success.
Yeah.
Or their measure of success.
Yeah.
For me, there has never been, and I want to be real transparent here because somebody needs to hear this.
I
have not,
in growing up, seen a successful marriage
Ooh.
at all.
Yeah.
Generationally, I have not seen one in my in my immediate family or connection
that too, bro.
that have been successful.
Yeah.
So to me, one thing that could make me successful was having a successful, long-lasting marriage. That was one. 24 years. So in August 19th, 2025 will be 25 years.
Yeah.
So that was one thing that I said, if I can be married to one individual and for a lifelong period of time, because I've never seen that. One, I just broke a generational cycle.
Yeah.
And that's success.
Yeah.
That's one. The other thing was raising children with my wife and I doing it together.
Yes.
I had not seen two couples raise, and this is just in my community. I had never seen two couples stay married and raise children till they were all adults.
Yeah.
So for me, success was stay with my wife.
Yeah.
Stay with her and be able to see all my kids to adulthood. Because there are things that disrupt that process. And here's the deal. When you grow up or when you're going through an experience, you have to look at what's in your environment.
Yeah.
What are some of the disruptors in the environment? And you got to learn. So my grandmother said, don't be a fool, learn from a fool.
Learn from a fool.
So you got to learn, and not necessarily saying these people were foolish or anything like that, because it takes two people to make a relationship work.
That part.
And so it took me about, out of the 24 and a half years we've been married, it took me about 10 to figure out that we gonna have to really work together. So the first 10 was tough.
Keep it authentic.
You hear what I'm saying? You talking about the process.
You better tell him.
First 10 years, I was like, I don't trust this process. This is, but
Hold on.
but in my subconscious mind,
Yes.
I kept saying to myself, whatever I need to do to get to this point,
Yeah.
this is how I'm measuring my level of success. So no matter what we were going through, and so here's the piece that was very important to that.
Okay.
I knew what success was for me, but I had to tell my wife what success was for me. So I said, listen, babe, you haven't seen successful marriages. I haven't seen successful marriages. I said, so this is something we got to figure out how to do together.
Okay.
Because it's going to take both of us to do this. I can't do this alone. You can't do this alone. So it's going to take both of us. Marriages are tough and marriages are rough. So I can successfully say that it's been chaos in some instances, but I can say, and I brag about this because, and some people say don't brag about how long you've been married because the devil hears this and that. I'm like, no, you need to brag about
choice, right?
You need to celebrate every year you're married,
Celebrate.
because now marriage doesn't have any value. So I celebrate every year that no matter what we go through, I celebrate every year of marriage because that is how I measure success.
Well, let me piggyback off of that because bruh, you talked about time, because I'm on my third marriage, so I didn't have that, but I never seen a successful one. My first one was, you know what I mean, with I want obligation. I didn't see the successful relationship, so I'm keeping it authentic. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna talk to you
because this is still all about process.
Yeah, I'm gonna get a little personal. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna dig deep because I'm trying to keep it authentic and I want to drive home my point. Because you touched on a couple of things that in my seasoned age that I can speak about it now because I know who I am and where I'm going.
Yeah.
My first marriage, okay, I had a child. I had an obligation. Never had the father figure in my life at the time. Was destined to not to put mine in that same situation or have them to feel anything that I felt. So out of obligation, I felt like this was something that I had to do. But I lacked something. I lacked patience. I was rushing time. I felt like I didn't have time to go through the learning curve of marriage. In my youth, I was very emotionally unintelligent. Right. We go. I'm segueing. Stay with me. You know where I'm going now. I was emotionally unintelligent at this time. And I tried to rush a process or end result or a perception of what I thought a marriage should look like in the absence of one, a successful one, okay? Failed miserably because I was in a place where my immaturity, okay, my lack of patience, my lack of understanding, emotionally understanding of my the chosen partner at the time. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And it caused me to be pressed in time. Environmental pressures, things about what I thought I wanted in my life, who I thought I wanted to be, who I thought I was, and it caused me to disrupt, to be a disruptor of not only the children's, but the life of my partner, my first partner. All the while to go venture onto other processes and other ventures in life to wind up finding myself in a second marriage. Similar standpoint, similar situation, different people. The common denominator was me. Still very, very much emotionally unintelligent. You know what I mean? Thought I understood the woman according to my perception and what I thought she needed or who I thought she needed to be for me. And I really wasn't worried about who I was supposed to be for her. You know what I mean? I was like, hold up. Didn't see it. Didn't have the blueprint. Was trying to make it up as I went along. Knew what I did wrong the first time. Tried to change a little bit of it, but only conditionally, according to that person. So then my second one failed, but I learned because of not only the inconsistency of me understanding her, but the inconsistency of patience and time. You know what I mean? I wanted to rush 30 years of marriage and experience into the first 3 months. You see what I'm saying? I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah. I wasn't willing to go through the pain and the heartache and hardships of trying to get to learn and understand who this person was, who I was, and then who we were together, because I was still trying to figure out me and my purpose. I didn't have the room or the space or the capacity to take on someone else. You know what I mean? So in my immaturity, I jumped into a process that I wasn't prepared for and wasn't willing or mature enough to understand the importance of that. Yeah. Okay? Which brought me to my third marriage. You know what I'm saying? I've been through some things now. You know what I mean? And you was there with me when I was going through them.
Yeah.
So I've been through some things. I learned. I was listening. I was patient. I was but still rushed the process. I rushed the process even in my third marriage. The difference between my first and my second was where I want to segment to. Okay, not to say, and I think this one was the hardest. This one has been the hardest. And it's been the hardest because I started dealing with me. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It was easy for me to blame initially. First one, that's on you. Second one, you still ain't really, you don't know me. I didn't know me. But the third one, I started dealing with me.
Yeah.
And it was rough, bro. You've been there with that one. Mm-hmm. Learning me, who I was, what my purpose was, how I need to get down. Who am I? That process was rough, but it was necessary. And then dealing with me, I learned something. Emotional intelligence. Okay? Yeah. Validation. But emotional intelligence and dealing with me first has catapulted me into an understanding now that has put me in a position where I feel like I can deal with almost anything.
You know why? Because emotional intelligence, the skill set of emotional intelligence allows us to pivot when we need to.
Okay.
When we did not understand or learn the concept of emotional intelligence, we didn't have the capacity to pivot.
Okay.
During conflict or during a situation. Emotional intelligence allows us to be self-aware and aware of others. If you can do those first two concepts, when you see a situation, it allows you to pivot. So the reason why a lot of us go through what we go through is because we didn't know how to pivot. Which means stop what we're doing and bounce and bounce off of that. That's the hard part. Pivot. That's the part. So being able to pivot, the difference between you now and then is you know how to pivot.
Okay.
So when there's conflict, and not just you, but me too. Yes. So whenever there's conflict, we're able to process it in many different perspectives and say, okay, this is how I'm responding and this is how I feel. This is how she's responding and this is how she feels. Not just that, but this is how my kids are responding. This is how I feel. This is how I'm responding. And so it allows you to pivot. Pivot means do something different.
Okay.
Essentially, do something different. This isn't working.
Yeah.
Let me hard step real quick and turn.
And pivot.
And turn.
Mentally, emotionally?
Specifically emotionally, because we're talking about emotional intelligence. Yes. So emotionally, you have to, and here's the deal. We've collected all the data.
Yeah.
We've collected all my life and all the relationships that I've seen and my own relationships. I've collected all the data.
Yeah.
The data tells me if you do this, this happens. If you don't do this, this happens.
Yeah.
You collected a lot of data.
Yeah.
So what happened is you start evaluating all the data you collected, and you were just like, okay, here's how I responded, and this is why this happened. Yes. So that's why it was so hard, because when you went back and looked in your subconscious being and you looked at the data you collected, you saw that you were the major contributing factor to those things. Right. And what we try to do,
we're keeping it authentic. Yeah. I told you we was keeping it authentic.
And what we try to do is control uncontrollable things.
Yes, that part. You see
what I'm saying? So what happens when we try to control uncontrollable things?
Yeah.
Two things happen. God uses us for an example or as an example.
As an example, yeah.
And so we go through a series of processes or a process because we collected data but did not implement anything we've learned from the data.
Okay.
And so now our process takes longer.
Yes.
Which deals with time again.
Time.
Yeah.
So the key, you said pivot. So let's talk about these processes in life and marriage and relationships and money, because I did have to pivot. It was almost, and I'm going to speak about this in a book that I'm that I'm going to finish, about being the common denominator, okay? But then also understanding how to pivot. So when we talk, let's give an example. If I hadn't pivoted, I wouldn't be talking to my brother here today. That was a pivot. That was a pivot in one of the processes that I've been going through for a long time. I speak about a lot of things. Sometimes I journal, sometimes I write. I got notebooks upon notebooks.
You said sometimes.
Yes,
all the time you journal.
All the times I'm
you
writing.
Yeah.
True. I got notebooks upon notebooks, man. You see, I got them all sitting right here. Just ideas, notebooks. I'm writing.
Yeah,
But
the Bible, according to Demetrius Ross, that's what your book needs to be
I'll be
called.
like a walking Eli. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
the book of Ross.
That part.
The book of Ross,
Ooh, man, I'm telling you, I could benefit from rereading it because it's a reminder. It's a reminder of staying the course, making the necessary adjustments, the pivot.
Yeah.
Okay, and understanding emotional intelligence, and the emotional intelligence, like you spoke about, is first dealing with me.
Yep.
How do I feel in this situation? How have I responded in this situation? What is that E plus R equals O? The event, situation, circumstance, plus my response to it is going to ultimately determine the outcome. You know what I mean? And then me trying to control uncontrollable things, meaning I can't just respond in a way negatively or unproductive. That's going to call and try to expect someone else or something else to formulate in my favor. I can't control how the outcome is if my response is negative. If I pivot and I understand self first in environment and situations with all the distractions or the disruptors, and I just simply pivot and I take the intelligence of understanding me, the situation, the circumstance, the blockers or the disruptors, and I pivot, then it keeps me in control of what I can control, and that's my response. That's my grind. That's my continuation of something. That's my relentlessness. That's my humility. You know what I mean? That's my patience.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's my value of time of self and others, as well as my goal and what it's going to take in order for me to accomplish them. Bro, you hitting it out of the park right now. You out there like the doggone, I can't say Yankees because they didn't show up in that last game, but them doggone Dodgers, bro. My man, I forget his name, man. But he showed up. It was the unsung hero. I can't think of his name now.
But they lost because they were inconsistent.
Okay, and maybe they didn't trust the process because I seen one play where the pitcher was supposed to cover the mound or first base on a routine grounder. You know what I mean? And he didn't do it.
And you know what? Here's what we do. Not from a spiritual side, but from a humanistic side. When we don't trust the process, we change the process.
According to what? Our comfort?
Yep.
Ooh.
Exactly. Like when we don't trust, like we know what the process, we know what it takes to get to a certain place, but we don't trust the process. So we try to change the process so it makes it easier to get the end result. And essentially, that's just like when God gives us a test. We keep taking the same test until we pass it. You see what I'm saying? And here's what's crazy. When you were talking about grades earlier, about getting a C and that was just unacceptable. A C now, like we celebrate getting a C. You know what I'm saying? We because we use excuse. Oh, it's tougher, it's harder, and we celebrate a C. You see what I'm saying?
And it ain't nowhere near harder.
No,
it's the educational system today is, in my opinion,
way easier because you have access to more.
Absolutely.
You don't even have to open a book to get access to information anymore.
No, you don't even got to read it.
You can say, "Hey Alexa,"
the book reads to you now.
You can say, "Hey Alexa," "Hey Siri,"
AI.
So what I'm saying is like we're in an age now where we don't have time to go through a process, and so we shortcut the process. AI is an example of us taking a short. So we want more efficiency. So we're like, we're going to use AI to be more efficient. But guess what happens? We don't really learn anything by using AI. AI tells us what to do.
we do it and we move on to the next thing instead of actually reading. Like, here's the deal. I always go to the Half Price bookstore and to Barnes and Noble to get a hardback book.
Yeah.
And I do that for several reasons, because it forces me to go through a process.
Yeah.
That instead of Googling what I need to know,
Yeah.
I'll read what I need to know. And here's the deal. The information that we're getting from artificial intelligence is exactly what it is. Artificial intelligence.
And it's robbing us of the inability to think for ourselves.
Artificial intelligence disrupts critical thinking. And here, artificial intelligence is awesome for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But it disrupts.
Yes.
So essentially you're using it and you're like, oh, now I'm on a productive grind. But here's a perfect example. AI tells us we're on a productive grind. But let AI shut down.
Yeah.
Let it shut down.
Yeah.
We don't know how to read a map.
No.
We have no sense of direction.
Wow.
And we don't know how to take time to read a book to get access.
Critical thinking.
Yeah. So we lose critical thinking skills because we have access to all these resources. And so we don't take time to think through a process.
Yeah.
We ask something or somebody how to get through the process.
And then it becomes the power of suggestion.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I'm going to give you suggestive information, and now we go back to choosing which one sounds the best.
Because AI, you can ask AI the same question 10 times.
Yeah.
It will give you 10 different answers.
Wow.
Seriously, anybody go to AI and ask it a question.
Yeah.
Every time, and then delete the history
Okay.
on your AI.
Yeah.
If you ask it 10 times, it will give you 10 different solutions to get through a process.
That's tough.
Now, instead of you critically
through it.
thinking
Yeah.
about different ways to get through, because there's more than one way to get through a process.
Yeah, yeah.
But instead of us critically thinking about how, that's the emotional intelligence piece. You know?
Yep.
So artificial intelligence is disrupting emotional intelligence.
And critical thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, because now we're asking an artificial entity how to solve a problem.
Bro, that's heavy.
I mean, that's a lot, you know, and that's like
hey.
maybe for another conversation.
No,
but that's real. So
it is real.
So that's a disruptor of a process.
It is. We talked about school. We talked about relationships. We talked about goals, aspirations. Man, let's change course a little bit. But it's gonna bring us back to the same place. You know what I mean? I truly believe that. Now I didn't go into this part of it because I wanted to leave it for you. You've been working on something. There was a process over the last 2 years that you had to go through. I want you to talk about that process, and I want you to catch people up on where you're at right now in the process and what we as listeners get to look forward to as a result of the process that you put in. And I know you know what I'm referencing.
Yeah.
It's something that you've aspired to do. You've completed it. It's out there now in a particular state, and it's going to. And I'll talk a little bit how it's already, what little bit I know about it is already transcended my thought. But let's talk about that process of altering, you know what I mean, your direction, the things that you had to cut off in order to move forward, and where you're at today in that overall process and what we have to look forward to as listeners.
Yeah. So what you are referring to is my journey to finish my book.
Yeah.
To finish my book. So I have been in ministry as it was read. I have been in ministry for over 18 years. Earlier. So in some capacity, over 18 years. So in some capacity, I was working in ministry, whether it was in my local church, assisting the pastor, or in building and growing, and the ministry. And then so I was in various ministries in which I did that. to get education in theology and biblical principles, understanding how to implement that, teaching those principles, going on to other ministries to help support those ministries and help build those ministries. And then God called me to find my own ministry. And so for 8 years, I was the pastor of Greater Love Outreach Ministries, and with a central focus on outreach in the community and teaching principles like emotional intelligence, what we were talking about mental health, which a lot of times was really steered away from in ministry, in church. And so that was not one of those things that was really a conversation that needed to be had. Trauma, abuse and neglect, all those things that we really didn't talk about in ministry. So my ministry, God allowed me in that season of 8 years to implement all that teaching in to my ministry. And then it's interesting because we hear God for everyone else, but for us sometimes. And so, you know, I did that for 8 years through the pandemic. A couple of years after the pandemic, about 3 years after the pandemic, I continued on through that ministry. And then, you know, one Sunday God said, okay, this season of your life is over and you have to move on to the next part of your season. And there's a 5-year period in this season in which you have things that you have to do. There's an assignment. This assignment is over. Now, pastoring, I retired from pastoring, but I didn't retire from ministry.
That part.
And so people got to understand the difference between retiring from pastoring and retiring from ministry. That season, so everyone that was in my ministry, involved in my ministry, I took them where God had me take them to a place. And then those individuals, as the ministry dissolved, each one of those individuals has went to either start their ministry, their own ministry, or go to impact other ministries. So I did the teachings and followed the principles of God that I needed to do to get those individuals to a place where they needed to go and expand the word of God and ministry, how God has given them. And so in doing so, you know, God showed me that it was my time to focus in on the second half of what I was designed to do. All of those things that I did, pastoring allowed me to get to a point where I am now. And so God just spoke to me and said, okay, these 5 years, you need to make sure that what I have gifted you, what I've gifted you was fostering your children, because they belong to me. You're just the foster parent.
Right. You heard that, right?
Yeah. So
fostering.
Yeah, I have 5 children, and God said, 4 children, and God said, in 5 years, these are the things that you need to do for your 4 children. And so I'm almost actually in 2 weeks would have completed the first of 5 years of what God has told me to do in my own home. And not only that, but you spend so much time helping people and doing all these different things for people. Sometimes you can neglect what was given to you to try to see about other people. And so God said, this is the season where you focus in on your marriage and give your wife the quality time that she needs and your children. And then not only that, you know who you are and you've discovered who you are. Now you got to live in that part of who you are. And so essentially, while I was in ministry, I was working on a book, and I was working on the blueprint for the book. And the book is The Spirit Emo, Discovering Your Spiritual and Emotional Identity. So while I was doing clinical work with clinicians, while I was doing therapeutic work, while I was doing governmental policy and advocacy work, and while I was ministering, God was giving me a collection of information. And what God showed me is the reason why we are in the state that we're in right now is because people do not know their spiritual and emotional identity. What is happening in the spirit affects you emotionally, and essentially what is in your spirit will show itself emotionally. And so what is in your spirit? And typically we know what's in someone's spirit because of their response emotionally. And so the question is, do you know, have you identified your spiritual and emotional identity? And that's, a lot of us walk around, we may know our emotional identity. We know what drives our emotion, but do we know what drives our spirit? And so this book is a collection of a variety of different things that I've collected over the years. Retired from pastoring. 3 months after that, I was able to complete the book.
3 months.
And here's the part that's very important. When I completed the book, I didn't just put it out.
Right.
I had to test the information that was in my book and challenge myself with what was in that book. And so what I did was I went back after I finished the book and I implemented all these principles that I felt I wasn't implementing. And then I went back and looked at in the book of all the principles that I've implemented and said, hey, what was the success rate of what I implemented in here? Where am I at now from the things that I've collected and read, and have I implemented everything? Because what I can't do is put this book out and have not challenged everything that was given to me to put in the book.
It makes it
so
authentic.
It's a self-help book.
Yeah.
It is actually not necessarily a full read, but what it actually is it's a journal, an individualized journal designed for you to go through each session and write down things. So it is really for the individual, not for you to read what someone else thinks you should do spiritually and emotionally, but a book that you read and you go through the questions and the evaluations. So it's basically a self-evaluation book.
Nice.
So that you can discover who you are spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah.
And so now that I've gone through all the principles in the book in each session myself,
Right.
now I can implement that, which people will see in 2025. And so I'm looking forward to people being able to go on this self-journey and self-reflecting journey, this self-evaluating journey, this self-discovery journey, because I believe that when you know who you are spiritually and emotionally, you will be able to identify what you are designed to do. And that's essentially what this book is about.
Wow.
And so timing is everything.
Yes.
And I didn't push this book out very quickly. I wanted to let it sit for a minute.
Yeah.
And I was trying to figure out, like, God, why have you not released me to release the book yet?
Yeah.
I realized what 2025 looks like and what it will look like. And we are going to be tested.
Ooh.
As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
this week, we will be tested
in a few days.
as a society as a whole. We will be tested.
Yes, we will.
And I was just like, I start thinking, like, if I had put this book out before being tested, this would be a more proactive approach to get people to hone in on their spiritual and emotional identity, so that they know how to deal with what we get ready to deal with. Because we're going to deal, no matter who wins the election,
no matter what,
we're going to deal with a significant amount of things that we've never experienced before.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, God, it would have been a good time to put this book out before going through this process.
Exactly.
And what was interesting is God said, no, it's not time. This book will become very important during, not before. And I was just like, so that didn't really make sense to me.
Right.
But what it is that's the problem with the process.
Yeah.
Is when it don't make sense to us,
we try to change it.
We try to change it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't sure why, and I still have not gotten the answer on why I didn't release the book before 2025, but I have to release it in 2025. And so I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it. I think it will be helpful to everyone. And the announcement of the book release and the date will come out soon. But I'm building a symposium where people will get an opportunity to evaluate the book with me. Yeah. And I go through that process, and we work through that process together. And hopefully, individuals take that book and share that and share who they find out they are.
For sure.
And then reciprocate that.
Yeah.
And because this isn't about being rich or wealthy, this is about what I was designed to do. Yeah. And essentially, this book was ultimately what I was designed to do.
Yeah. And everything that you went through, everything that you learned, all the accomplishments was all part of the process.
All part of
There was parts in that time where you trusted it, and there was times where you didn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you guys need to understand when you talk about TTP, when you talk about the word trust, we have to understand not all what trust means to you is different from someone else.
Yeah.
When it comes to your process, your season, your environment, whatever you're going through, wherever you are mentally, socially, and emotionally, the process is going to be the process with or without you. You have the opportunity to alter or change the process, but the process is still going to be the same.
Yeah.
The end result or the end goal to where you're trying to get to is always going to be the same. The process in between is, and whether we change it, whether we alter it, whether we trust it,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's all still part of the process.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So be encouraged to not always alter, to not always change, but understand the importance of time and patience, because it might save you from a little bit of heartache and hardship.
Right.
And it's the resilience that's in you and the understanding of your purpose and your personal resilience that may keep you pushing towards it. And you might add a few more nuggets to your story. But my man said it earlier, if I had just trusted a little more, and if I had just been a little bit more patient, and if I had given a little bit more time, I would have been further along.
Less steps in the process.
Less steps.
Yeah.
So I believe in that. I truly believe in it. That's what TTP is about. It's about trusting in the process. First, you got to understand what your process is by self-evaluation. You got to sit down and be honest with yourself. You got to have some conversations. You got to be able to hear something. You got to understand how to set goals and how to have objectives. Then you have to constantly, I heard you say, you got to constantly reevaluate where you are. Am I being productive in this process? Where am I at in this productivity? Then there can be some form of altering, not to change or to step away or to pause, but to just pivot.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, but to pivot so you can stay the course and understand maybe there was a distraction, maybe there was a disruptor, maybe there was maybe you were the disruptor, or whatever the case may be. But instead of pausing, pivot. You know what I mean? Just pivot so you can stay the course, so you can still achieve in the amount of time that was already designed for you to, with less heartache and hardship. Because some people don't come out of that. Some people don't get back on track, and we, as a race of people, could be missing out on some incredible products. If people understood where they were in their own processes and some of the disruptors, and just how to make simple adjustments instead of pausing when things come before you. Because anything worth having is, you got to work hard for it. We all know that. You've all heard those expressions and stuff like that.
And it's not, and people need to remember, it's not how you start the race, but it's how you finish.
It's how you finish.
And the reality is just finish.
Yeah.
like you know what I'm saying? People
Just
worried
finish.
about what place they in when they finish instead of just finishing.
Yes.
And that's what I've learned, man.
Wow.
Just finish. Cause your race looks different from everybody else's race.
Does.
So you just got to finish your race.
Yeah.
And I'm saying some of us are sprinters, some of us are distance runners, some of us are marathon runners.
Yeah.
However, because that all deals with time.
It does.
And some of us get to a certain spot in life sooner because of how they've conditioned. And so we just gotta finish the race, man.
And don't always measure. You know what I mean? Don't always. I noticed
we
that
get
too,
caught up
people,
in that.
You start looking at where you are with something, and you want to measure yourself up against where somebody else is, but you don't know their story.
That's a disruptor.
It is.
When we start measuring all the time, we spend more time measuring success as opposed to really going
and just stepping in it. Bruh.
Yeah.
Man, the mics has been hot, bro.
Yeah.
The mics have been hot, man.
This has been fun, man.
We didn't hit each other upside the head, bro. Hey, look.
What they don't understand is we have these conversations on the phone
on a regular, man.
Like often.
Yeah, and I told him, I said, man, I need about 30 days, man. I'm gonna capture this. I said, I gotta find a way. People gotta hear this, bro. It's just authentic conversation, man. You know what I mean? This is my process. I got so much to talk about, and anybody that knows me knows that my journey coast to coast, from the West Coast to the East Coast, North and South. I've been all over, man.
Everywhere.
I got a lot of things that I want to talk about, a lot of things that I want to share, a lot of people that I've had an opportunity to break bread with, to learn from, to teach, and there's so many incredible things that I've encountered, bro, and I just want to share it with people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I think your resume is just as long or longer. Right. Yours might be longer.
I was thinking about that when you said that. It's important for people to...
your resume in bio
Yeah.
is has a lot, encompasses a lot in it. You know what I'm saying?
does,
So
bro. It wasn't, and to give you your flowers still, it was, I felt empowered by reading yours, because I felt like, you know what, I'm in I'm in good company. You know what I mean? Because when it comes down to it, or maybe one day I'll share my bio with everybody on here.
You gotta share your bio.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I can walk with my brother, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? We've been through some things. We've been through some places. There's some similarities. There's so much. We even back to the ranch when we was trying to make a difference.
2008.
2008, man.
Since
We've
2008.
been on this journey of friendship and brothership,
Yeah.
man. Now to the point where we family. His boy said
Yeah.
the other day.
Family.
He said, how are we family? Or are we like family?
Yeah.
You know, that's how close we became
Yeah,
over the
yeah,
years, man. And
yeah.
I love that,
Yeah.
man, because
Well, yeah, my kids question our relationship. Like, is he your friend or is he your brother?
She was like, what you ain't telling us, Dad?
And I'm like, so what do you think?
Yeah.
And they view you
Yeah.
as you know,
Yeah.
Uncle D. You know what I'm saying? So that just tells us what our kids see.
Yes.
You know,
Back to
not
that,
not
yeah.
what they hear. Like,
Yep.
I'm not telling them like, oh, back in the day,
Yeah.
me and your Uncle D did this.
Yeah.
Like, they see our relationship, so I don't have to explain that.
It
to them.
don't. It don't.
And
It's
that's
real.
what I'm talking
And
about.
and it's transparent too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
our relationship is authentic, man. Like I said, I love using that word because I strayed away from keeping it real. You know what I mean? Because
you don't want to offend people.
you don't
'cause
want
people's feeling get hurt when
because
keep
you
it-
and people say keep it 100. Nobody. Let's clarify that. Nobody keeps it 100% of the time. You can't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but you're gonna live a very lonely and isolated life, and you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Probably
yeah.
broke.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Unhireable.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Whatever the case may be, because if you think about what it really means to keep it 100,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's 100%.
Yeah.
That means there's no filter. You know what I mean? That you have to speak. Nah, you can't.
Yeah,
do that.
because
Can't
keeping
do
it
that.
100
Can't
means
do
that you throw politically correct out the door.
Yep, you do. You
Yeah.
you throw emotional intelligence out of the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You throw validation out of the door.
Yeah, and what you do is create vulnerability.
Yep.
And everybody is not built for vulnerability.
Nope. So when I say I'm keeping it authentic, that's authentic to me. I'm having honest dialogue with my brother or whoever else is able to join me on the show. And we just gonna speak from our experiences, you know what I mean, from the heart, from our truths, from our reality, because our reality, our perspective is our reality, regardless of if it may be your truth. You know what I mean? It's our reality. So I love that. That's what this is about. It's about trusting the process of life, communication, relationships, money, parenting, you name it. Everything about what we do in this world, there's a process tied to it. And I want to capture that in every form and every facet. My brother's going to come back on the show. Trust and
Absolutely.
believe. This is just the intro. I wanted y'all to really get a chance to see where he was at. I wanted to talk a little bit about the book. But we talk about so many different things. We're going to have some more conversations on. He mentioned family earlier, so I want to be respectful of his time. My sister's at home, you know what I mean? And he need to get to her because part of the 5-year plan, you know what I mean, was for him to give his time to his family and to take care of the responsibility. It's Sunday. I'm grateful that I'm able to get the time with my brother that I have. So before we close, I'm gonna turn it back over to him, and I want him to just bless you all who's listening and who will be following with just some words of wisdom, bro. You know what I mean? Just leave us something that you feel is going to also be part of your legacy and what you so come on.
That's crazy.
Come on.
So that's crazy you said. That's crazy you just said that, because the last thing I want to share was what just recently happened on Wednesday.
Come on with
so
it.
my 14-year-old Braylon, so one of his friends sent him a picture, a family picture of us.
Okay.
And he was just like, Dad, where they get these pictures from? And I said, they probably Googled me. And they found a picture of the family by Googling me.
Yeah.
Now, think about this. So I went to Google and I Googled myself while he was in the office. And I said, when you Google me, you see all these things that I'm associated with. So it popped up all these different things that I was associated with, or who was associated to me.
Ooh-wee.
So whoever was associated with me, or I was associated with, all of that popped up when I Googled myself.
Yeah.
And he looked and he saw
7 or 8 different pictures of either me and my wife
Yeah.
or the family in general.
Wow.
And I said, son, whatever I do affects the family.
Yeah.
And I said, and so that's why it's important. This was my lesson to him. That's why it's important to know who you're connected to.
Yeah.
Because when somebody looks up that person,
Yeah.
they may find you as someone connected to them. So make sure you know who you. If I don't share anything today, make sure you know who you're connected to.
Yes.
Because my son is connected to me. So when people Google me, they find out about him.
Yeah. Ooh wee. So that's
That was
tough.
the conversation
that's
we had
tough.
last week.
Yeah. Be careful of who you are Be mindful.
Be mindful.
Be mindful of who you are connected to, especially more so today. You know what I mean? Because we live in such a social media driven world.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean? To be Googled. I encourage all of you guys to Google yourself.
Please.
You know, I used to
so
tell
you can
my
find out who Google says you're connected to.
Google says, you know what I mean? AI, here we go.
Man.
Because my kids used to talk reckless to me all the time. I'm like, about my accolades. I said, boy, I used to say, boy, you better Google me.
Better Google me.
You want to know what I did. You know what I'm
Everybody
saying?
should be Googled.
Yeah.
Everybody ain't ready to be
everybody,
Googled.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because you can Google some people and you see that they're connected to the wrong people.
Yeah.
Or things are connected to them that may have negative connotations.
Yep. So and that stirs public opinion.
It does.
And it feeds social stereotypes.
So I leave people to really evaluate who you're connected to. That's essentially what it did for me, because I had to go through and see who it connected me to.
Yeah.
And who it connected to me.
So Google will tell a timeline story too. So if you are not happy with who you've been connected with, you have time to change it. Change your circle, change your events.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's an algorithm.
That part.
That's attached to
Tie
it.
yourself into some people who are in places you're trying to go. Tie yourself and get connected to people who are where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? And then, you change your circle. It says a lot about where you headed.
And I told him, I said, so when they Google you, they'll see me. So don't make me look bad.
That part, you better represent. You hear that? You better represent.
Yeah.
Handle your business.
Yeah.
No, but I love that, man. That's tough, man, bro. I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been another TTP experience. I appreciate you guys joining in. Like I said, we do this on a regular basis. It's not going to be the last time I have my brother on. We're going to get specific with you guys next time and do a deep dive into different topics. Absolutely. Fatherhood, relationships, a little bit deeper. We scratched the surface today, but we got a lot more stuff that we want to share collectively, because I'm telling you, together, when we sit down and break bread, man, just from talking, it's so empowering.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It really is, man. And it puts me in a better space. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if I wasn't all right beforehand, I'm good afterwards, man, because I was able to purge.
Same.
You know what I mean? I was able to listen. I was able to gain some insight, and I was able to share without prejudice. You know what I mean? That's important. And to every man, we're going to talk about this too later, but from a mental health standpoint, to be able to have someone that you can connect with and be able to speak about your truths. You know what I mean? To be able to keep it authentic with a brother that just ain't gonna tell you what you want to hear. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be like, nah, bro, you wrong on that one. I'm fortunate to have surrounded myself with a handful of brothers that I can connect with like that. 2 of them are my brothers. You know what I mean? The third one is my brother Lawrence. There's another brother in Marion that we've connected with, a couple times. Johnny, he gonna be on here for Mr. Jackson. Dr. Johnny Jackson, what I call him. He cold piece of work too. We gonna get down. We just want to talk. We just want to talk. We want to capture these moments and these opportunities to probably share some things that we hope, you know what I mean, can be food to some of those listeners and be encouraging to someone, and for people to be able to listen and realize that, dang, maybe I ain't the only one that thinks like that or feels that way or has went through something like that. And I'm always here from a connectivity standpoint. The information to be contacted is always at the end of the page. Again, if there's things that you guys want to hear about specifically, I read down the man's credentials. He can talk and is qualified to speak about just about everything, bro. You know what I mean? And the people that I run with are like that. You know what I mean? Because I'm trying to be like that. You know what I mean? So they are and achieve things that I'm trying to achieve, and they're in a space where I'm trying to get to. So again, I thank you for joining, brother. I'm gonna let you close again. This has been a TTT experience. Thank you for joining me with TTT Conversation. Lawrence, close us out, man.
Just encouraging everyone, put God first, family, and then everything else. If you have a circle, evaluate your circle. But I pray blessings upon everyone. We're getting ready to, excuse me, experience something we've never experienced this week. And I encourage everyone, use emotional intelligence. Don't try to control uncontrollable things. Like, be self-aware, be aware of others going into this season. And I just want everybody to know that no matter what happens, God is still in control.
Period. Point
And
blank.
so I just encourage everyone today, just know that whatever's happening in your life, God is in control. And if you seek ye first the kingdom, all these things will be added onto you. Yeah.
Hey, bro, appreciate it.
Okay, I know I'm here to stay. Counting on my wins, so I can't play this game. Try to go against us, get you out the way. Go hard, it's the only way to play. Let me say, I'm a trendsetter. I'm a go-getter. I'm a trendsetter.
Music licensing reimagined.